Who wants to ride a sled with stock graphics? Not us. Use SledSend 4 for 20% off a discount on Arctic FX graphics. They'll bring your vision to life with hundreds of designs and endless customization options. Your sled will stand out whether you're on the trail or in the backcountry. So hit the link in the description and customize your wrap and use SledSend 4 for 20% off at checkout. SledSend listeners, welcome back to the next episode of the SledSend podcast. I appreciate you guys tuning in, regardless of what platform you are on. And as always, check out some of the links in the description. Ton of discount codes for you guys in there from a bunch of our sponsors. So yes, this episode is a super special one. So we are back at Albany Lodge for the Ladies Clinic Ride. And we've got a couple of girls here that are going to do like they did last year and take over the SledSend podcast. So I'm going to step out from this episode, and now it's all on you guys. So take it away. Kira, jump in.
Thank you. All right, we'll wait for her to come sit down with us. Thank you, SledSend. Hi, friends, and thank you guys for letting us take over again. We're going to do our very best. I know last time we had you guys on the edge of your seat, so we'll try to do that again this time. I don't know where the conversation's going to go. All right, so I think you'll recognize maybe some familiar faces from last year on this podcast, but I want to kind of go around and introduce ourselves because there's a couple new peeps with us. So Tanisha, do you want to start? Introduce yourself, talk about how you got into riding, and we'll take it from there.
I'm Tanisha Meter, and I got into riding with my husband probably a while back.
Tell us how long, Tanisha. Tell us how long.
And I remember my very first sled was a fan-cooled 550 Polaris. And I don't even know how long the track was on it. And I remember we were down in, it was definitely in the Snowies, but it wasn't around Albany Lodge. We were up where we were riding today, or some of it looks familiar, but it's been a long time ago that I don't completely recall. We were down in this ravine, which was probably like a meadow. And
it sounds way sweeter. No, let's go ravine. Stick with ravine.
Massive creek bed.
And I remember like the dudes were making this track coming up out of it. And then they would circle back around. And then there were a couple other gals that were there, and we would like go up it and then like turn out, and then it would roll over. And then we'd get it back up going. And then I just remember just sitting on this little 550, and I just like, I'm getting out of this. And I just like held it to the grip and just and I made it to the top. And so that I still remember that ride. So that was a while back, and that was my first sled.
Nice.
And that's kind of how I got into snowmobiling.
Love it.
And my husband and I have been doing it ever since.
Yeah. What kind of riding do you do now, typically?
So we're in the deep ravines now.
Yeah. So you started there, and now you ended up there. Okay. I like that. Good. Cool.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Started from the bottom and still in the bottom.
Sometimes. Sometimes the bottom's fun. It's fun down there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
It's all good. It's really fun, and it's fun to keep with it and keep improving, and you just learn something every day, and there's so many more people that are out enjoying the sport. So it's really fun.
Cool.
But yeah, hopefully my daughter will be on a 550 next
we want to see
season.
Josie out there. Yeah.
I'm
absolutely.
super excited about that.
Cool.
Julie Casso, been riding for 9-ish years, but seriously riding for 4. Bought my first sled in 2020, got a 2019 Arctic Alpha, and now I'm riding a Summit X. Ski-Doo.
Nice. Quite the upgrade.
Surely do.
I'm Brooke Mayrand, and I'm new here.
We like the new girls. We like the new girls.
I've been riding for about 4 years in the mountains. I grew up riding in Michigan, trails, going as fast as I could. Really stuck by my dad and learning everything around snowmobiling. Then I moved out here, was super into skiing, and was like, I should get a snowmobile so I can go skiing on my snowmobile. And so I didn't know anyone who snowmobiled. I bought a truck, and started just talking to people, and you'd be surprised at how many people know people who want to take you out, who are open to taking you out, and just met some friends that way. And then actually met the people who taught me really how to ride in a parking lot by just saying, I'm looking for friends who want to ride, or who will take me. And I'm like so thankful for that, because those guys were a huge part of the reason why I kept with it and didn't get discouraged, because they were really open to teaching me all the things. Yeah. And now I'm sitting here with this group of badass girls who are now also my really good friends. And it's been a really fun time, not only learning how to ride, getting better, but getting into the community. Yeah.
We love that. Awesome. Love that. It is wild how small the community is.
Yes.
I think that all the time. You like run into people in the parking lot that you might have ridden with once, and next thing you know, you're on like a group text, and you know,
We're all best friends.
yeah, like it's
Oh, I met you last week. But.
yeah, it's we like suffer together, we have fun together. Anyway, my name's Maggie Mistovich. I have been riding kind of similar timeline to Gingy over here, probably 8-9 years, but really got into it about 4 or 5 ago. Was in the Front Range in Denver for about 15 years, and then moved up to Steamboat Springs like 3.5 years ago. So that has really accelerated the progression ramp, so to speak, and has also brought a lot of wonderful humans into my life. So really got into it by way of my husband as well. I mean, we both kind of took the plunge, so to speak, in that 4 or 5 year ago window. Had some great friends that were very solid riders. Actually, I think I mentioned Blaine Clowder last year. Blaine, he now guides down with Chris Barant. He's one of the best riders I've ever seen on a snowmobile. At the time was guiding up in Steamboat, and we had been out with him a few times, and he was so excited and welcoming to bringing new people into the sport. And I say that because it's really stuck with me, and it's something now that really gets me excited, doing things like this here at Albany Lodge for this women's ride, taking people out for the first time. I remember what that felt like for me, seeing somebody that, you know, is leaps and bounds skill levels above anything I'd ever seen before. And he was very adamant when we said, we're going to come up and ride with you, Blaine. We're going to book 2 days of guiding, and we're going to like stay up there. And he was like, I'll guide you for 1 day. Tori's going to guide you the second day. He didn't want to do 2 days in a row with us. I think mostly because there's different teaching styles. It was, I realize now, important for me to see another woman ride a sled. Like, and if any of you have seen Tori ride, she rips, right? And it was just a really good couple of days that kind of took us from being casual riders to like being fully committed. So, kudos to Blaine. Love you, Blaine. Kudos to Tori. And kind of the rest was history from there. So, yeah, just want to reiterate again how cool it is to sort of pay it forward in a situation like this up here at Albany. But we'll get into recapping the day here shortly. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Maggie. I'm going to kick it to you, and then I'll go last.
Sure. I'm Kira Deakins. I'm nowhere near as badass as all of you guys. I had the pleasure of riding with you guys today. I've been on the podcast before representing Visit Laramie and the Albany County Tourism Board. But I had an incredible time today. I had the pleasure of getting guided by both Julie and Maggie, and you guys were incredible. You guys were amazing, and I know we had some hiccups because that comes with guiding, but I mean, I had a great time, and everybody that left was saying and how much of an incredible time they had, and being taught by fellow women too it's important, and I think powerful. I don't know, you guys teach in a different style, and I applaud all of you for it. I think you guys left, we had about, was it 12 people with us? Started with 13. Thanks.
Started with 13.
They'd all come back, just to be clear.
Everyone's okay.
I think 9 of those women were going to make this a more regular thing for themselves. Nice. And I applaud you guys because I think you guys had a lot to do with that. So thank you.
Awesome. Oh, I love that. I feel like I have like a big, massive, because I just like that, like your feedback, like that's exactly what I would hope. And like, that's what I want. And I think that makes it for all of us like that's what makes it fun. That's what, like, I'm going to go to bed tonight and have the biggest smile on my face and be like, I just had so much fun. And like that, I love hearing that. So thank you for saying that. Not to ramble. I'm Peyton Penny. You guys know me, but, I started riding when I was a kid, trail riding back on the East Coast, and I got into mountain riding about 4 years ago, a little bit more on a serious level. And I started out doing clinics specifically with Matt Entz, and I attribute a lot of my success to him because he taught me those skills that I needed in a really positive, although it's not a full female environment when I did learn necessarily, but he's, there's no pressure. He's there to teach you. So I do always recommend, like, take a clinic, go to somebody that they know what they're doing. They'll give you those skills. You can learn them that weekend and then put them to use in the coming weeks until you finish out your season. So I think there's a lot of value there. But that's kind of my background. So with that said, again, we're all here at Albany Lodge to celebrate having a ladies ride today. And that was in the honor of the Trixie Strong Foundation. And the proceeds and everything that was raised today goes towards, I believe it's colon cancer screenings. So it's a really good cause. I never met Trixie personally, but I hear so many really amazing things about her. So I feel like she's always looking down on us on this day with a big smile, just like we all had.
Her spirit seems present.
Yeah, you can definitely
feel say here that have been a part of this ride. And I'd never met her personally either, but having been up here the last couple of years, Sinesh, you've done it 3 times now. It's the way people rally to just make this a really cool event, memorable event. To include, brands like Tubi and 509 and people donating, rides and stays, and the silent auction was great. So it's just it's good warm fuzzies.
Yes,
to say the least.
That's a good way to describe it. Yeah, it does leave you feeling warm and fuzzy. So we truly had a really great day. We had over 30 girls join us today, and they all range from beginner, intermediate, even up to advanced riders. So we kind of got to get into some different types of terrain, really good opportunities to teach riding skills, and then also just kind of let them go off and have fun, get to know each other, like make friendships. So I think that's a big takeaway. But with that said, I'm interested to talk to you guys. I guided with Tyler today, so I didn't really get a chance to see you guys today, but I'm always curious to know, like, what were your takeaways? Like, what did you see today that made you felt so happy? You were like, oh my God, she was so successful when she did that. And like, so-and-so, they walked away and they were feeling really happy and motivated and all those things. So if anybody wants to chime in on that.
I mean, I think the biggest theme, and we talk about this every time we come back to the lodge, is how much progression happens in one day.
Yeah. Hours.
It's to just have that individualized attention, and kind of, we had a handful of girls today in our group that had never been on a sled before. Yeah. When we were heading back, at 3:30, we had people sending it off a jump on the way, down to the lodge. That. And I kind of thought, we rolled up to this jump, and I'm thinking, okay, Kobe's going to go off of it. Gingy will go
typical
off of
Kobe,
it, And I think out of the 8 folks that were left in that afternoon group, maybe only 2 didn't do it. I think everybody else did.
Nice.
And it was just cool to see, like, the way confidence level rises, hour by hour on these rides is really, really cool. So, and we're not necessarily that far away from the memories of our like first rides and what that felt like. And so having that really kind of encouraging, positive environment seems to really, give folks some real confidence or false confidence. I don't know what it is, but
I don't care what it is.
We love it.
Confidence. Yeah. But like, that was your feedback too, right? Is that it's a little bit of a different environment when it's, 90% women around you, because I think we've probably all had experiences where we're with a group of guys or friends even, and you don't leave the day feeling very good, right? You're kind of like down on yourself, like, oh man, I held the group back. I got stuck 10 different times, right? And I think, at least for myself, I don't want to speak for you guys, but like, I make that a really big point of the day, is like, we are here to help you, judgment-free, pressure-free. You could get stuck 15 times. I'm still going to pull your ski. That's literally what I'm here to do. I want you to enjoy it, get stuck, challenge yourself, feel like you're in a safe environment where you can do that. So like, that's what I always try to kind of reiterate every time that we get to do this.
Totally agree. So I want to add in on that. So there was a couple gals in the group that it's like, they go ride and they get stuck. And they're like, my husband always tells me, like, go get stuck. I'll help you out. And she's like, I don't want to get stuck. Like, I want to ride. Yeah. And he's not giving her the pointers on how to ride. So today was very, very awesome. Getting them on the one ski, getting them to do some J hooks, getting them, down and coming back up on some of those hills was awesome. And to also show them how to get unstuck by yourself, some little technique like that, so that they don't need their husband to come help them get unstuck.
Yeah.
And so that's neat too. I mean, it's so fun to ride with your significant other, but it's also so fun to just like learn how it is for girls, because it's so different for us than it is for them.
Yeah, we look at things differently. Like I feel like we're a little bit more analytical. Like I'm like, okay, I've got lines A, B, and C, and a guy would come up to that and just be like, I'm going to send it. Like I'm not even going to pay attention. Oh, there's a tree there. I don't care. But it's just like we kind of come at it with a different mindset. So to have a similar mindset to you when you're riding in a big group, I just think makes it a little bit. It's just I don't know, more fun, a little bit easier. So.
Julie,
Yeah, that's
you
a
were
great point.
placing us, and this is again just from a participant's standpoint, you were placing us on a different part of the board because we're women and because we can move our bodies a little bit more easier that way and control the sled. Can you touch on that a little bit? Because I think that's so important. And that was one of the biggest takeaways I took as a participant with you.
Yeah, so I spent a lot of time riding with dudes, and I did not progress. I did not progress hardly at all. And then I took my first no, I think I did the women's ride, the CSR women's ride. I did that for a day, and it was nice to ride with other women, because then I mean, you learn from them where they're at the same level as you are, different tips and tricks, whether they're super beginner or super advanced, and you kind of put all those different things together. But then I took a Madden's clinic, and that took me so much further than the last 4 or 5 years had, and that's where I got the women's riding techniques.
Awesome.
Men don't ride the same as women. I mean, for the most part, yes, but I feel like we have to be more fundamentally sound in order to throw that sled around like they do. I mean, we just don't have the strength and the size to do that. I mean, I'm a much taller person, so I have a little bit of an advantage on me, but I see small girls throw their sleds around like nothing. And from them, you learn those little tips and tricks of putting your feet out wider and in the stance and using the throttle more. And I don't think you can really get those skills and those tips and tricks from anyone else other than another girl. So I think it's very valuable if you're starting out to either learn from another woman rider, or to take a women's clinic, or to take a clinic that has other women, because there are little tweaks and things you can do to really elevate your riding that you probably won't be able to do if you're just following boys around who just literally throw the sled around.
It also saves your energy too, right? If you're learning, like, make the sled do the work. I said that probably 4 or 5 times a day. I was like, no, like, make the sled do the work for you, because otherwise you're just going to be, dead after 2 hours of riding, and then you have to head back to the truck. So it's like, but that's a lot, like, mental and physical game to kind of figure out how those two things combine and go together. But it's seat time, right? Like and I said that a million times a day, right? We'll give you the skills today, and you're going to maybe understand it, but to put those to work, to practice them, you have to have seat time. That's just how you get better. That's how you progress. And like, there's a level of frustration there before you get to that point. But like, that's kind of the natural progression of it until you
frustration precedes progression.
Yeah.
Like, no question.
you have to have it.
Yeah. If you're not frustrated, then your chances are you're not actually getting better. Right. And that probably means tears. It probably means sweating, swearing, you name it. But there's sunny, there's sunny skies on that other end for sure.
Yeah.
I would also say that one of my favorite parts about a ladies' ride, or just an organized ride or a clinic, is it gives you the time to like slow down and think about the fundamentals. Like we talked about it today, when your body's tired, or if your body's in fear, like you're just trying to keep up with the group, you forget about like, look where you're going, shift your weight, and all these things that make the sled do the work. And you go back to just this like fight or flight mode, and you lose your fundamentals and can't progress. So I think that was a highlight of my day. Was in the afternoon, we reset our crew and said, I know we're getting tired, but remember to like think of the things we were talking about this morning, the fundamentals of riding, and just slow down a little bit. Yeah. And then we saw so many girls like get that click this afternoon. We were like, oh, they are holding an edge. They're, hooking uphill now on an edge, where in the beginning of the day, they were just learning to get on that edge on flat ground. So that was really cool to see.
And that's something like I mean, I've been riding for years, right? But I still find myself at the end of the day, you're tired, you're getting sloppy. I will remind myself and be like, what am I doing? Why is my body positioned? Like, I know better than this, but it just goes to show like that's something that you kind of have to carry with you. You learn that initially, and it's no different than side hilling or pow carves or whatever. It's just something sometimes you kind of have to think at the end of the day when you're tired, your body's not doing what you want it to do, put the sled to work. Like, take a step back, take a second, take a deep breath and be like, I know what I'm doing. I just need a second.
Hey, what's up, guys? We're here at Heydays, and I'm standing here with Dayton from Albany Lodge. And he's going to tell you a little bit about what they have to offer.
Hey guys, so we're a certified Polaris Adventures outfitter located in Albany, Wyoming. We have 13 cabins and 9 hotel rooms. We offer a fleet of sleds in the winter for rent, as well as in the summer of side-by-sides. If you guys are looking to do something a little bit different, we offer guiding, fishing guides, all of the above. At the end of the day, get dirty, get tired, stop in the bar and grab a drink, bites to eat. Have a good time.
Heck yeah. And be sure to use SledSend for 15% off the lodging and their entire rental fleet, whether you're here for the winter to ride sleds or in the summer for side-by-sides.
As somebody who's been to Heydays a couple years now and got to experience riding with you guys today, what do you guys think the industry can do to get more women riders involved in the sport? Because we've talked about how important it is and how awesome it is to ride with other women. How do we keep women in the sport, get them interested? Do you guys have any ideas on how to do that?
I think representation is a big one. I see a lot of really good riders out there, but you don't see them outside of being kind of deep in the industry. Tori, incredible rider. Kim Onash, incredible rider. Seeing more of them out there, I think, makes it more of a welcoming environment to women, but also hearing those stories and understanding that. I mean, I had a conversation with one girl today and she was like, well, how did you do it? And you got in your sled and like, how do you work on it? And I'm like, this snowmobile is screws and bolts. Like, it is not hard. It's not like a difficult thing that you need help with. Like, do the exact same thing that your boyfriends or husbands or any of the dudes do that you see riding. They're looking at YouTube videos. Mm-hmm. They're Googling it. Like this, there's a stigma around snowmobiling and other really male-dominated sports that it's like, I need a man's help, and like no discounting them or their credit or anything, because I feel like all of us were in some way introduced to this sport by a guy. But I want to make sure that it's not a barrier to entry, that you need someone to unload your sled or gas up your sled or put oil in it or put aftermarket parts on it or fix it when you break something. This is all something that we are very capable of doing, and it just takes a little bit of confidence, but also just the initiative.
Yeah.
I remember I just bought my sled, and the very first day I had it, I took it out. It was overheating, and I was riding the sides of the trails really fast, trying to kick snow underneath it. And there was a rock that I did not see. And I endoed so hard, so fast, and I ripped the tie rod, both A-arms, and the ski off, and it was just dragging behind me. And I was like, well, crap, what do I do? And I was like, well, let me look at it. Let me see. Like, everyone replaces A-arms. It can't be that hard. And it's not. It's really not that hard. Like, just take the initiative to be like, all right, this is broken. What is this? This is broken. What is this? And then go and figure it out. Like, this stuff is
YouTube University.
YouTube University. Yeah, like
very useful.
Give it a try.
Yeah.
Take a sled clinic, Google stuff, look it up, talk to people, talk to friends. Don't be so intimidated by something the men can do just because the men are doing it. Because you sure
we
as
can
shit
do it too.
can do it yourself too.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
If we're talking just other things the industry can do, kudos, SledSend boys.
Shout
for
out,
giving us your
Thanks
podcast
for
from time
having
to time.
Yeah.
I would say, 5 years ago, you would not have seen, a bunch of girls sitting around talking sleds. So platforming, we like. Would like to once again shout out Albany Lodge, and there are opportunities to do women's rides like this elsewhere, but you kind of got to look hard to find them. If whoever's running the show at Polaris Adventures, if your lodge is a Polaris Adventures lodge or even a Skidoo lodge, think about putting on a women's ride. Make it accessible. The great thing about what they do here at Albany is, this ride is super accessible. You're not paying $400 or $500 to rent a sled for the day. You get out here with 30 other women, 50 other women. They got a pretty low cost on renting a sled and getting a guide for the day that you just can't really find at a lot of these other lodges. So kind of, I'll put that back out into the ether, and hopefully, there's some action on it, but there needs to be more of this kind of stuff for sure. Because you see kind of the camaraderie and what can come out of it. And, just making it accessible is a big piece of that. And I think, that kind of low barrier is a little bit tough for some outfitters to get over, but it's like, it's one day, this was a spring day. It was 50 degrees out. They weren't slinging sleds for $500 anyways. Like, put a ride together and let the girls come out and rip. And you'll find that, people will leave a lot more interested in the sport, wanting to get better, spending money in your shops, renting sleds, subsequently thereafter, maybe buying their own. So, there's a lot more opportunity for that. No question.
Yeah.
That was one thing that was, I did not expect as much as I probably should have, but there were a bunch of girls this year that were like, hey, you remember me for last year, or I recognize them personally.
Yeah.
And they came back, and it wasn't always the ones that like I anticipated. It was a lot of the ones that they had never ridden before, never owned a sled, just did it because their friends were doing it. And they made a point to come back because they enjoyed it so much. They really like the sport. They want to continue to do better. And that felt really good today. But then to also see those same girls progress even more than they had done before, and then also see the ones who had never been on a sled today throw the thing over and get it on edge and walk it. I was like, oh my gosh,
Awesome.
like I didn't really have anyone teaching me how to do it before, but it took me like 4 years.
Yeah. Yep.
And a lot of the girls were like, yeah, like you've done this for a long time. I'm like, no, I was doing what you're doing like 4 years ago. Like, it's not, just keep going, keep trying, take that initiative, take a course, take clinic, get your sled, and then come up here and do a podcast with us. I don't know.
Yeah. Come hang out. I would definitely talk about like social media. You said platforms. I know social media can be kind of taboo sometimes. But I mean, I have literally met other lady riders. They live in Wisconsin. One of my best friends, she lives in Wisconsin, and we just met through Instagram and made friends in person, and we ride together every winter. And so I think, although again, it's sometimes, social media, but I do think that there's a massive value to that. Like, you can make friends, you can stay in contact with your friends, follow these companies, like, Climb, a phenomenal company to work with. They have lady specific gear, right? That they're constantly evolving and changing to make better for us. So I really think the industry is making an effort, to your point, and to yours too, right? 5 years ago, it didn't look 10 years ago. It looked nothing like it does now. So I feel like we're headed in the right direction. There's obviously more work to be done. But yeah, I think we're doing good things. So, and it's fun to be a part of it.
And don't be afraid to reach out to these elite pro women riders, because every single one of them, Jen McPherson is a great one. I know people who never met her. She posts a lot of great stuff. I've done clinics with her and Madden. She's wonderful. She posts awesome content for like fundamentals and technical riding for women, and really anyone. But go ahead and reach out. They love that stuff. They always respond with great content, and the resources from a women's perspective is so attainable. You just have to take that, reach out to them, because they love it. We all want to grow this sport from a women's perspective. So if you're out there and have questions or are having issues with it, or really just want to get into the sport and buy your first sled, or pick out gear, or find an avalanche class or something like that, reach out to them. They will respond. They'll give you great information, and that feels really good to all of us, because every single one of us have been in your shoes at some point. And we're all more than
there's a degree of like advocating too that now we're on the hook for, right?
Sure.
It's like, okay, we, people have listened to us talk, or they've taken, a clinic from us, and we need to be good stewards of the sport, right? The industry is moving along at
Advocacy.
a decent clip, but at the same time, it's, that kind of guerrilla movement, so to speak, is what will help keep the cog in the wheel moving. So, I could probably be a little better on the socials, but
Okay.
it's a lot of pictures,
forgive you.
a lot
We'll
of
forgive
pictures
you.
of my dog, but
We love Kirby though.
We
He
can get
deserves
more
a spot on the gram.
but all that to say, I think it's, it kind of, we should put the onus on ourselves as well too, to just, keep things moving the right direction.
And even if it's not social media, like go to these events, like Poker Run in 2 weeks. Brooke and I are going to go. And it's just so like, go to these events, donate to your local clubs. Like there are so many opportunities to be present. Like we had a meeting about motorized access a couple months ago, and Steamboat, Tanisha and I showed up together. We didn't even know each other was going, and we were like, oh, hey. But it's like, show your face, like get to know these people, make friends. And it's like, grow, like that's in, like, I want to make people feel more comfortable. Like there's another girl there that's, she just walked in, she doesn't know anybody there. We're friends already. Like, I don't know you, but you're already my friend. You're here, you walked in, you snowmobile, you're brave, like you did that. So I do think that if you're not on social media necessarily, there's still a ton of other opportunities where you could be present in your community and in your state as a whole, or even, here we are in Wyoming and a lot of us are from Colorado. So I think there's definitely opportunities there too. So there's a lot that we can do to kind of continue to push things in the right direction.
Julie, you mentioned something that surprised you today with the women leaving and being so much better after just one day. I'm curious from the rest of you. I know you guys do this regularly, right? And at the beginning, there's a lot of surprises and there's a lot of people that are involved, and you're leaving with, oh, that was really, really cool. What surprised you guys today?
You're asking good questions.
Thanks.
These are great questions.
My
I gotta think.
biggest surprise was honestly the attitudes. Like
Awesome.
by the end of the day, yeah, we still had girls in our group that were eager to learn. They had positive attitudes, wanted to try things, which from personal experience, when you're learning something, you get tired and you get frustrated and you can get down on yourself and in your head really easily. So today I was super impressed by everyone's outlook and positive attitudes throughout the whole day. I think it made a big difference for our group.
I do think too with our group, like they were just eager to want to keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Because like after lunch, they're like, well, what do we do now? And we kind of give them the choice. Well, are you guys exhausted? Do you want to go check out the scenery, or you want to like learn more? And they're like, let's go practice these turns. Let's go practice this. So we went back to some lines, and they were just exhausted, and we didn't want to call it, but like they were exhausted. And one gal tried to do this side hill line because we had found a really neat spot that was, not hard packed snow that we're having right now, like spring and February. And it was a really good terrain for them to learn how to get it up on that edge. And she got it up on that edge and gave it her all. And she just throttled it, and it bucked her right off. And she went rolling down the hill, and she like landed and instantly hands up, but the sled had stopped. And she got back on, and she was like, I'm going to do this. And it was just really cool, because at the end of a long day, when you're fighting and struggling trying to get that up on edge, it's hard. But once you figure it out, it's not hard, because it is that brake, it is that throttle. And the more that you do it in repetition, it just comes easier and easier. But to just keep pushing and keep pushing when they were that tired was awesome. So that was a big awesome take today.
It's just fun. For me, it's not like a surprise necessarily, but I love seeing them when it clicks. And they're like, oh, wait, that's what it's supposed to feel like. Oh, this is all of a sudden, it's so fun. And I had one girl today, and she's like, I can't wait to go tell my husband, like, I can side hill. Like, you told me that I was struggling, and now look at me doing it. Like, seeing their excitement, it makes me genuinely so excited to see them. So I just think it's not a surprise, because I feel like that it's always kind of the hope that that's what happens every time that we do this. But yeah, it's so fun to see them so stoked about something and be successful and work really hard all day, and then have it finally click at the end of the day, even when they're exhausted. Yeah. So it's just fun.
Yeah.
In that same vein, it's the aha moments, which I watched you have several of those today, right? Where there's a solid foundation there, right? And I'm like, and I would see you from across the field, like kind of getting on edge. I'm like, you're right there. You're right there. And then I yell, look where you're going. And then it was like instant, like it became, you were fighting the sled a lot less. It became a little bit more natural looking. And those happen 100 times every hour of the entire day in every group. Like, it's just really cool to watch things like materialize right in front of your eyes that way. I think the coolest part, and again, maybe not surprising, but it's just really, really fun to watch, is the first timers. There's always a handful of girls that have never been on a sled before. And if you try to think back to like what that felt like for you, and you might not even remember it at this point, right? Yeah. We were saying earlier, some of the things that are so second nature, like having your kill switch in the on position, making sure your tether's attached, like you don't even think about that stuff. And when someone's never sat on one of these machines before, it's like those are the little things that are just going to make their day a little bit easier and get them a little more excited. And so the opportunity for progression is like everywhere. Yeah. It's not so much like, you can go from never riding to side hilling, but we're talking about just being comfortable. Yeah.
It's like a spaceship. Like I'm just thinking it's hard, especially for a lot of us that kind of grew up snowmobiling, but as a kid, right? Like, I mean, I probably got on that thing and my dad's explaining to me, here's the throttle, here's the brake, and you're sitting there like, what the heck? Like, I mean, it's very daunting. It's very intimidating. But again, to have a group of fellow females that are willing to teach you and be patient and be understanding. But I do think like beginners, it's so fun. Like I always think back in my head, like if I could go back and do it all over again, like what would I do? And one of the things that I think I would tell myself is like, enjoy the nerves, enjoy being a beginner. Like I remember the first couple seasons I rode, I couldn't even eat breakfast in the morning because I was so nervous, so stressed out. And now it's like, I don't get that feeling anymore. And I kind of miss it sometimes. I miss being a beginner and having everything be new and challenging. So it's like appreciate, although it can be frustrating, like appreciate that time because we've all gone through it. Like you all have to start somewhere, but appreciate it, soak it up. Like you're only going to get to be a beginner one time, right?
Now it's like, how much food can I eat for breakfast? Because I'm going to burn so many calories. I'm like, I need 2 Kodiak waffles, eggs, bacon.
Uncrustables.
Uncrustables.
Yeah,
like
5.
As soon as you get to the parking lot. Yeah.
As being guides, you guys obviously come up with challenges when you're guiding people, when you're working with people. This is a twofold. I'm curious what challenges you guys have seen or have dealt with, and how can participants be the best participants they can be? Is there anything they need to know beforehand? How can I not only be better and leave this clinic, this training, the best that I can be, but how can we help you guys as guides?
I don't know if it's something that you guys can help us with. In a sense, yeah, but confidence. Confidence is a big one. Because I see a lot of times when I'm trying to help folks, like they come in with these preconceived notions or a chip on their shoulder because they've been trying for a long time. It's just like, I can't do this. I'm not strong enough, or I'm not good enough. And it's like, no. We've all been there. We've all done it. Just let's break it down. Let's make it simple step by step. And I think when you're able to do that and they can recognize that, oh, I turn my foot this way, I step out, I use the throttle. And when you break it down into fundamentals, it's not so intimidating. It's the same thing as like working on your snowmobile. There's a bunch of stuff on it, but if you just break it down to, oh no, I have to take these screws off or whatever, it's the same concept of being confident enough to just take the small steps to where you can achieve something a lot bigger. I think is really cool to see. And when you're able to break it down for them and they're like, oh, and then you see not only it click, but you see them get past a mental barrier that's probably been holding them back for a really long time. And that feels so good.
Yeah. I think to go along with that, it's like you can't be what you can't see yourself be. So like coming into it knowing that you can get really good at this sport and you're not capped at a certain point. You can get, like, I guess the best example is I rode with Jen McPherson before I even did a clinic, when I was very much in the beginner naive stage of like, I didn't really know what this was going to look like for me. I went riding with a group and she was in there and she was leading the group. Like I was like, she is badass. She is getting everyone unstuck and she's just blazing trail for all these guys. And then when I went to a clinic and went to ladies rides, I was like, I knew that that's where I wanted to be, where I still want to be. Yeah. So knowing that, you know, you aren't going to limit yourself, you are going to get good at this and to not get in your head about it, I think is the biggest thing when you come to these types of events.
Yeah. I would also reflect a positive attitude. I know it seems kind of simple, but like to reflect on myself, the days where I show up and I don't have a positive attitude and I'm just pissy because it's like everything's gone wrong all day. Those are my worst days of riding. So it just having that positive, and that kind of goes hand in hand with confidence. Like they're all almost kind of interconnected, but to come into it with an open mind, be trusting of the people, especially if you're in a guided situation, be trusting of the people that are guiding you. Like we have your best interest. We want you to have fun. We want you to succeed. So I always say, yeah, a positive attitude is going to make a really massive difference.
Hey, it's Robin Cook with Truck Boss Decks. Just wanted to show off our 8-foot Truck Boss. It's 100% aluminum, made in America. You never have to take it off in the summertime. A year-round use, dry and secure storage underneath.
Yeah, absolutely. And be sure to use SledSend 4 on the website for 5% off to upgrade your adventure to Truck Boss Decks.
Do you guys feel, and this is something I did sports in high school and in college, and when we were tired, right, the coach was always saying that's the most important time. Is it the same for snowmobiling? Because there were some women with me today that were saying, you know, I'm really tired. That means I'm going to make a mistake. Do we shy away when we're tired, or is that the best time to do the fundamentals?
I think you have to be realistic about it, right? I mean, we do get tired at the end of the day. And I understand the comment about that's when you make mistakes. It's true. And I feel like my riding group we always fall into the hole of it's the end of the day. Oh, you know, we'll just dip off the trail really quick, like just really quick. And then we end up in this, I don't even know, ravine, and it's a hot mess. And so, but I think that you have to be realistic, right? I mean, I think gauge your level of tiredness. What do you have left in the tank? Because I do think that there is value to still riding when you are tired. You're going to get better. Your endurance is going to get better and all of those things. But also, we don't want you to get hurt. We don't want you to put yourself in a situation where you're like, oh, I was just so tired I couldn't hold on to the handlebars. It's happened to me before. So I think there's definitely a balance there. So, but that's a good.
And that's really where the fundamentals are the most important piece.
Yeah.
Because it's already hard enough to muscle your sled around when you're fresh. When you're tired, you know, if you have the right fundamentals, the right skill set, or at least the right know-how, you're going to have better success on the way back to the truck. The other piece is how sharp is your mental game? And if you know you're physically tired, like that's when you have to rely on your brain to be like, hey, if they're going to dip off the trail and play around, I'm going to stay in a different section of this zone so that I don't get myself into a precarious spot or make a bad decision. You will make bad decisions. Like hands down, that's just part of how this goes. But it does take, especially if you're with newer groups or if you're with a group you don't ride with a lot and you don't want to hold people up, you have to at some point stop and say, you know, I'm not comfortable doing this, or I'm too tired to do this. Like there's no shame in that, because at the end of the day, you're riding as a team. That's another Blaineism is like snowmobiling is a team sport.
Yeah.
You might feel like you're out there alone. And a lot of times, especially if you're stuck on your own, it is 100% a team sport. You would never ride by yourself. I mean, I don't even like riding with like 2 or 3 people. I'm like a solid group of 4, 5, 6, like at least, because there's just, you know, a lot of bad decision making that can happen and everybody gets tired. And so you have to think of it that way, where you're communicating with your team. You're saying the way you feel, you know, you're making sure that everybody is like in lockstep on the same page, because if you're not, yes, you end up getting stuck. Maybe your arrival time of 4 p.m. is now an arrival time of 6 p.m. at that tailgate. Like there's just a lot that goes into it that, and I think too, we've said the confidence thing over and over in this conversation, and it's a little bit harder as a woman to like speak up, especially if you're the only one in the group and you feel like you're super tired at the end of the day. Just have the confidence to like know yourself, know your body, know your mind. And it's better off for the whole group if you just like say what you mean and act on it. So
there's definitely a threshold, and I'm glad both of you mentioned it, of like safety and timing and all that. If you can take those out and like, no, I'm safe and not going to be messing anyone else up, and you're super tired, I will say my best breakthroughs that I've done and I've seen other people do is when they're exhausted, is because at that point you know, you've messed up 3 times, you've trenched your sled and you've had to dig it out for an hour and a half. And you're like, I have enough energy to do this and that's it. And all you do is break down whatever move you're trying to do. And you're like, you get rid of all of the doubts and the concerns. You're just like, I have to do X, Y, Z. And then being able to complete that feels so much better. But sometimes it takes you to the point of this is all I have left energy wise to get you to just adopt or give in to the fundamentals that are, I need to turn my sled this way and throw it over this way and give it this much throttle, or I'm going to have to dig my sled out for another hour and a half.
Which I would love to avoid that. At the end of the day, you're like, I literally cannot get stuck. I can't do it anymore.
Never happened to me. I don't know what you're talking about.
It takes away all the other thoughts and concerns. It's like, I either do this the way I know I'm supposed to do it, or I dig my sled out for an hour and a half. Like you have 2 options, and it really makes it simple. And you're like, oh my gosh, that's how I do it. And then those little things click. So sometimes, great. If you're exhausted, try it again, but only if you're in the ability to get back.
I always say snowmobiling is meant to be fun, but there is obviously sort of a danger level to it. So let's be smart. Let's be realistic. If you're that exhausted, I don't want you to put yourself in a position where you're hurt. If you got a little bit left, sure. You know what? Let's try it. It's not the end of the world. If we get back to the truck 2 hours later, that's okay. But as long as you're safe, I think that's the biggest thing.
I think a key too is knowing the group that you're riding with. And a lot of the times we do ride with guys. And I really like to chat with those guys and just be like, I'm going to go out and do something and I want to try something. I'm going to push my limits. And if I get stuck, I really like to prep my sled to the ability that I can, whether it's going to be we're going to roll it over so you clear spot, or you clear out the track, or you get the ski ready. And to keep you from getting exhausted, you get that prepped, and then you just call and be like, hey, I'm ready for a ski pull. And then they come over, or they can just pick up the back end of the sled and set it down, where we would lose so much energy doing that. So if you can do those slight little preparations and then have the team come in, that's very, very helpful. And then they even know that, like, hey, this is a great plan, because then I'm saving her energy, which is going to keep us out on the mountain that much longer. So that's really important, I feel. And I like riding with those kind of people too. So it's like you can get yourself prepped and ready, and then all they got to show up is pick up the heavy stuff or do the heavy things, which is really hard for us.
And I know for sure you do that, because I have showed up before and it's like, it's like perfect. Like Jesus is looking down and he's like, we shoveled this whole spot for you. You're ready to go. And I'm like, this is great. You called 2 seconds ago and you're ready to go. Like, I'll pull your ski.
So, I mean, that doesn't take much energy. Prepping doesn't take energy. It's the lifting, the tugging, the rolling over. So if you could just do the initial prep, and then you last that much longer, instead of just being like, I'm going to do this by myself. Like it's really
which we
hard.
have. I mean, speaking for myself, I have done that before, right? I'm like, I don't need the boys. I'm not calling them. I think I said that today. I got stuck and I was like, we are not calling Tyler. Don't look at that. Don't even call him. Don't even look at him. He's not coming over.
I think also something that I've been trying to work on is like really paying attention on your way out. Like when you're with a big group, and if you're in the middle or in the back, you kind of can just head down, cruise control to the different zones. And then sometimes your group breaks apart. Some people head back earlier. You're with a smaller group later. You're getting tired. The group decides to take a different line. You have to know where the trail is. You have to know how to get back yourself. So then at the end of the day, when you are really tired, you kind of have that exit strategy already in your mind. Which is hard to do when you're heading out and just excited about having fun. You're just like, let's just get to the zone. But paying attention, I think, is really a big part of snowmobiling.
Yeah. T, you touched on something that I want to ask the rest of you guys. You guide men sometimes. I'm curious if you guys feel like you're battling some credibility ever when you're guiding. And if you guys could touch on that a little bit.
I would say yes and no, right? I mean, I always battle with imposter syndrome. Like I've worked really hard to be where I am now, but you always kind of fight it in the back of your head. You're like, am I really deserving of this? Like, should I be the one that they chose to be here? And I've guided one group of guys before, and to be honest, they were all phenomenal. They were a ton of fun. So I do think it kind of depends on the person that you're guiding. Sure. But I do I want to prove myself. Like I want them to be like, wow, you know what? Like she deserves to be here, right? So I do think there's a little bit of a confidence thing. Like I want them to think that, oh, okay, yeah, we know why she was chosen to be here. So I think there's a little bit of that in the background. But I also just think it being respectful. Like the snowmobile industry is small, I think, all things considered. So we know a lot of people, we have mutual friends. And so I think being respectful of one another and just hoping that sort of trickles down to everybody else is super important too.
Great.
I will say one thing that was cool today that I don't think happened as much last year. But after we finished, a lot of the girls went back to their husbands or significant others or whichever guy, initiated their introduction to the sport. And I feel like we got quite a few questions from the men of like, well, how did you do this? And well, how did you do that? And well, what was the instructions that you gave her? And it's not only helping them break things down so they can teach their wives or their daughters or their sons, like anyone really learning, being able to break it down because they've probably ridden for a really long time and they can't do it. But then also helping other guys that maybe have issues in the same area. And they were like, well, what is this? And she said, you taught her how to do this. Can you show me what you did? And I think that was really cool because this isn't just skills and things that we've acquired as women and it's only women riding techniques. Like these are things that are translatable across the sport entirely. These are hard fundamentals that allowed us to progress and excel in our riding. But they're translatable to everyone. And I think that's really cool because I don't know if, a lot of men especially, and I'm not, trying to discount them here, but I think we have to rely on the fundamentals so much more that it allows us to be able to communicate that to others because we need them, like, especially when we get super tired in the backcountry. You literally have to stand there and go, turn right, lean left, throttle here, brake, and like visualize those lines. And I know guys do too, but I mean, I am talking myself through every line I'm riding half the time. So I think it's really cool to see how that crosses over, and it's regardless of gender. It's snowmobile, it's sport.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think we're seeing as an industry, and this is something that comes up a lot when I talk about snowmobiling down in Laramie and trying to promote this area, that it's a rich person's sport. It takes money to get involved. Yeah. What's your guys' opinion on that? And I know it's a big question, but it's a barrier for a lot of people.
Yeah. I mean, I do think, like I know Polaris this past year, they came out with, I think it's the SP model. So it's more of like an introductory, a little bit more affordable than spending $25,000 on a snowmobile. So I do feel like there's being efforts made in the industry to make it a little bit easier to sort of introduce yourself into it. But in addition, like my first snowmobile was pretty heavily used, right? I mean, I don't think that's abnormal to buy a used snowmobile off of someone and learn in that manner. And then if you decide that this is something that I'm really dedicated to and what I'm motivated to kind of continue on, but I mean, it ultimately, I won't lie, this is an expensive sport. It really is. Insurance, a sled, gear, avalanche gear, taking avalanche courses. So I do think that can be a little bit of a barrier. But again, like today at Albany Lodge, this was super affordable. I think the full day, if you had your own snowmobile, was $100. If you wanted to rent gear and a sled, it was $185. So you're looking at less than $200 for a day. That's amazing. And I think the fact that they give that as an opportunity to people is so respectable. So I think, yeah, it's not super affordable, but there are definitely options. And I hope that maybe that kind of continues to grow across the community and across not just at Albany, but potentially at other locations too.
Great. That's another big one. I think reaching out to women and anyone else in the industry and just talking to folks about how you can enter the sport financially. I tell people all the time, like, this is a great event. $200 is insane for a guided day, instruction, and a snowmobile rental. That does not exist. It's snowmobile rental for a full day is $400, $500, $600 sometimes. But then there's other resources out there, and then like, well, I can't afford a sled and I want to get started in snowmobiling. Well, talk to someone and kind of see what's out there. There's definitely a lot of affordable sleds and things out that are available where you can get into the sport for a lot cheaper than buying a brand new sled. Like $3,000-$4,000, and you can get a really nice mountain sled that's, you know, lightly used. And while it's older, 5 years ago it was top of the line, and it hasn't changed. Yeah. So talk to folks, kind of see what's out there. It's not cheap, it's not free, but if you're really interested in the sport, and you have a budget, there are means to it. I mean, I've got an absurd amount of gear I need to get rid of. So like I bet if you reached out to any one of these girls anyone else online, you're like, well, I need gear, I need a snowmobile. And it's like, well, I've got a pack and a bunch of gloves and a couple extra helmets and some goggles. Like, you can have it.
Yeah. I purposely, like, anytime I'm getting rid of gear, I'm selling it for bottom dollar. Like, I'll have people reach out and be like, that's an amazing deal. I mean, 70-80% off a monosuit that was worn 15 times, but it's like, I don't care. I'm not there to make money off of it. Like, I want to give these to people so that they can, to other girls, that they can get into the sport, so that it's actually affordable. So yeah, I mean, look at you, Facebook Marketplace, like, look at you stuff. I mean, you can find some really good stuff on there.
This fundraising event, this silent auction, if you go to a snowmobile event, a hill climb, heydays, like, reach out to someone in the industry if you don't know a ton, and just be like, hey, I really want to get in the sport. What do I need? That's a big one. Yeah. Where do I need to spend my money? And what can I get for X amount of dollars? I'm more than happy to talk about that with you and get you some help. Don't be afraid to reach out. There's opportunities out there to get into the sport for not a ton of money. Yeah. So don't.
Takes a little extra effort, but that's not a bad thing, right? But again, to your point, like, if ultimately you decide it's something that you're really interested in, okay, Absolutely. Well, then maybe you'll spend a little bit more, but to enter into it, like, it's definitely doable.
Yeah. Worth it.
Well, I just want to say too, I cannot applaud you guys enough. I think one of the coolest things about about today was, obviously we touched on the environment and the camaraderie, but you guys both know I ate it a few times, and every time I got up, people were cheering. Like, people I've never met, and I left with people running up to me with their business cards and trying to just stay connected. And I cannot say enough that has a lot to do with you guys and how you guys ran each group. And I know that, of course, we have a lot of friendly people coming out and wanting to snowmobile, but a lot of that was you guys. And I want to applaud you guys for that, because there were friendships made and some big, big leaps in the sport made today. And thank you.
I love that. Yeah. No, thank you. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
Getting emotional. No, I appreciate that. That's
if you can find some friends that you can text on the weekend, hey, are you riding?
Yeah. We have a group chat. Literally, we're like, riding this weekend, and eventually we'll get people that somebody's going to show up.
Yeah. All of a sudden we have like a group of 12, and we're like,
we had quite a few last weekend. Yeah.
We're all in.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my favorite, when the guys are like, oh, you girls are riding, but where are you going? What time? Do you care if we join along? Like,
we'll consider it. We'll give it some thought. Let me sleep on it.
We'll share details for Uncrustables.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah, I like that. No, but seriously, thank you for saying that. I think, at least for me, that's a massive part as to why I do this. I think give back to the community, I just think that's a big deal. And it's fun. It's genuinely fun. So thank you for saying that.
Of course. Yeah, it was needed.
Yeah. All right. Are there any last thoughts? Anything that you feel like you have to get off your chest? I feel so happy. It really, in all honesty, I feel like we're being kind of like, it's a sob fest about it, but genuinely, like, this is such a fun event. Yeah, turn these off. No, it's a really amazing event. It's for a good cause. I've met some really cool girls. Like, at the end of the day, I was like, I'll find you on Instagram. And she's like, oh, I think I followed you earlier. So it's just kind of fun to make these friendships, see the success, see these girls leave with a big smile, having made new friends. So I just think all around, this is such a fun day. I look forward to it every year. We hit February, and I'm like, oh, it's almost time to head up to Albany. So, and thank you, SledSend, of course, for letting us crash the podcast again. You guys are fun, and you pulled skis all day, and we appreciate you guys. So. Cool. We out.
Nice.